Hi, this is Hank Stratton from Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio Show. Join me and my partner, Roger Belt, on Monday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific, and at 3 in Hawaii on www.cjmars.radio.com/CJMars_chat.html. Join us for guest interviews in the paranormal and strange. Join us. If you can't be normal, be paranormal. You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
Hello, everybody. We are live here on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Roger Belt, and my partner's name is Mr. Hank Stratton. Say hello, Hank.
Hello, Hank.
This is
Hi,
Half
everyone.
Past Dead Paranormal Radio, the paranormal and strange, and I cut over him. Hit him up, Hank.
Just letting everybody know that I'm here too. Good old Hank Stratton. Roger, we got things going on tonight. We have Alejandro Dominguez from the Dead Explorer tonight.
Yes, indeed. And I've been knowing Alejandro for a pretty good little while, and I watched a bunch of his videos last night. They're pretty amazing, some of them. Alejandro, welcome to the show.
Hey, Roger. Hey, Hank. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. It's an honor. The Dead Explorer, that's kind of what we're going to get into here. And how did you come up with that? I mean, what was you doing when you came up with the Dead Explorer?
Oh, that's a pretty good question. I wish I could take credit that it was something I kind of had planned out, some big scheme or something, but basically it's just something that it's just as simple as that I wanted to ghost hunt, and I'm a big video and film guy. And so, naturally with those two things kind of being my hobby, I just wanted to put them together. So I started recording, investigations. A main reason, obviously, in case you capture some evidence. Just on a whim, I shared them on YouTube, but I for whatever reason, it kind of seemed to, hit a nerve. A lot of people really reacted positively to it, and that's basically what motivated me to keep sharing, investigations on video. I probably would still be investigating either way, but just sharing it, and there's people who react positively to it. It really motivates me to keep going.
I think it's really neat, and the name just, it's just kind of like right in your face, It's kind of like Half Past Dead, I mean, it kind of just comes up and smacks you in the face. So
yeah, for sure.
It's really a good name, and I wanted to ask you because I watched a video, and I spoke to you about this earlier. A lot of people get the impression that if they go buy them a high-priced camera and a digital recorder and whatnot, and they go out to a place that's reportedly haunted and everything, that they're going to, just get all this evidence, and that's not always true. Lots of times you don't get anything.
No, absolutely agree with that statement. Paranormal investigating, most of the times when you're out there, You just don't really get a lot of activity. I know that if people really are just experiencing investigating from an angle of watching it maybe on TV, well, on television, they obviously, I won't say everything on TV is not real. I think there's things on TV that are real, but it's also part of it's made for entertainment. And so, they do what they got to do. But anybody who's investigating, I'll tell you, most of the times, a lot of times, nothing really ever happens.
That is very true. I've been on several of them where we didn't get not one EVP, not one personal experience or anything that, just stuck out there where you could say, well, hey, that's cool. We went to this haunted place and we got something. But now I did. Just to say that you can get EVPs there. I was at my son-in-law's and my daughter's house one night, and we were just messing around with a recorder, and we were out by his shed, which is in the field there, and when we left and was coming back to the house, as we were coming through the gate, I said, you guys can follow us up here, but you can't stay. You got to go back. And we got an EVP right there that says, I belong here. And then as we were walking up towards the tree in the front of his house there, we had a disembodied voice say, I ain't staying.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
We happen to have a lot of similar situations with my paranormal group here in Washington. You can't go by what everybody says, this is going to be doing this is going to be doing that. It really takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you can't fake it like some of these other shows are showing. And that's what I like about you, Alejandro. You are really you're doing your best. You're showing what can and doesn't always happen.
Well, I appreciate the compliments. I really don't, I guess you say it pretty straightforward. What you see in the videos is really my natural personality, and I'm not somebody to overreact. So, a lot of times what you'll see me is be very calm. I think if I wanted to, anybody could try to make an attempt to make, something out of nothing, but it would just grow old to me. I've been doing Dead Explorer videos. Like I said, I started off as a hobby. It's kind of gotten a bigger audience, so I really try to be respectful to the audience and provide more stuff for them since they want it. But the bottom line is it's still something that I do as a passion first. And if I try to be anybody who I'm not, I don't think I could have done it as long as I've done it by now, because I basically do a new video almost weekly, 52 weeks a year. And that's a lot of work. It's not just investigating, but it's editing videos, going through evidence, researching locations. And it's just that I'm passionate about the paranormal. I think like a lot of people, I'm sure are listening to the show are. And I just try to go about investigating in a way that just works for me. What works for me doesn't have to work for anybody else, and somebody else's approach doesn't have to be work for me. Everybody's got a right and to investigate however they want to, and I'm not saying my way any better than anybody else's. Everybody can investigate however they want. Obviously, if there was one right way, we all would have the perfect evidence by now.
Oh, so yeah.
I just try to be myself, and I just go with that. And if people dig it, great. And I think some people do. And I do get comments from somebody else like, hey, this is boring. I don't like this. But that's okay. That's their opinion. People are entitled to have their own opinions. And if what I do doesn't work for somebody, there's somebody else out there who probably does something that suits their personality. So to each their own, but it's just basically about just going about, being myself and following my passion, which is investigating and doing it the best way I know how.
I'm glad you brought up about all the, the stuff that you have to go through and, you have to do research and all that, because that's one of the hardest parts about when you're putting together a decent paranormal team. Everybody wants to do the actual investigation because that's all exciting and everything. But when it comes down to all the humdrum, going through all the evidence and, and doing the research and all that kind of stuff, they don't have time for that. They always got something better to do. It's not just about investigating. It's about, you have to sit for hours and listen to EVPs or listen to audio and watch video, and your eyes start drying out and you get bug-eyed and all that stuff. It's not all the glamour of the investigation like a lot of people think.
Well, a lot of the work takes place outside of the investigation, and that's for sure. Part of it is understanding the client, making sure you're respectful of them and their location, and the only way to do that is by communicating with them before an investigation even happens, to kind of just get the ball rolling. And I've had conversations about how much research you might want to do in a location. I think you try to strike the perfect balance between researching enough to have historical information to back up what you may or may not experience. But I also try to draw the line to where I try to kind of leave it also open for things to happen. So you go back to your initial comments about expectations and what do people expect. Well, expecting paranormal activity because it's happened to 5 or 6 other people before you doesn't do you a favor either, because then you kind of go in with a preconceived notion of what's going to happen. And it kind of eliminates the ability to kind of just maybe catch something you weren't expecting. So it's a fine line between research, but also keeping things open-minded enough where you don't compromise your expectations to the point that you see things that might not be there or miss things just because you don't expect them to be there.
Right. And sometimes when I like to do kind of similar to what Ghost Hunters did in the original episodes, and that's back when they used to investigate like everyday houses and everyday people before they got too big. I like to go in and walk through the place, with the client and get all the hot spots down and, listen to what they have to say about what's going on, stuff like that, and I don't write it all down like Steve did in the show there, but I make mental notes. And
sure.
That's how we set up, for our investigation, is kind of by what I get from the client, where stuff's happening at, and I'll also throw a camera just somewhere where nothing's supposed to be happening at, just on the odd chance that you may get something there that you're not going to get in the hot spots that they talk about.
Well, I think that's a perfect approach. I mean, this is my mind. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to approach, but that's kind of like how I go about it too. You find out from the clients what they want you to look at. So you set up some cameras, like you said, at locations that they've seen things, because then you're not, and you're kind of there also for the client to help them validate. Somebody else is coming in to tell them, I have experienced the same thing you have, or no, I haven't. But then, by putting cameras in locations that nobody's talked about, you're also saying, hey, let's look somewhere else, because we might be missing something if we're just going to the 2 or 3 places the clients.
Exactly.
And so I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really good approach, and it's very similar to what I do too.
Well, now and I will set up cameras to cover the spots they're talking about, but also kind of take in some of the area where they're not really talking about. If I can get an angle to where I can get both, that's the way I like to set them up, because that one spot where they didn't talk about might be the only spot you actually do get anything.
Exactly.
One thing you have to realize, we realize it, we understand it and accept it, but for everybody else, when we are on an investigation, we're there, like you say, for the client, to help them out, but we also have to be the hardest critics on our evidence, because we're putting this out there and saying, this is what we found. Either disprove it or show us what we've done. We can't just put anything out there willy-nilly.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're basically putting your reputation on the line every time you share something, and reputations and credibility is something that is very easy to lose and very hard to gain back. And
That's true.
I'm always very conscious about how far I will go with a piece of evidence, um, as far as sharing it with others. Just because I want to make sure that it passes at least my test for what I would think is worth, a good piece of evidence. And there's been times I've shared a couple of things and gone in hindsight, oh, I wish I'd taken that back. Now that I look at it again, it's not what I thought it was. But you can't be perfect 100% of the time. But it's definitely very important to be cautious of what you share because your credibility is going to be on the line.
I want to ask you, I watched the video, and I think it was a recent one that you just put up where something actually grabbed you.
Right. Well, yeah, that was kind of like a shot in the dark investigation. My friend Roger from Shallot Paranormal in San Antonio, he wanted me to go check out an abandoned location. He knew that other paranormal teams had been out to it and caught EVPs. He's done a lot of legwork trying to figure out what the location is, and it's had a bunch of dead ends. But we went basically, and it'd been a while between investigations, and we wanted to keep our skills sharp. We wanted to, keep practicing ghost hunting because you never know, one, if you'll actually catch something, by random chance, and two, just to be prepared for the next investigation. You don't want to be rusty. And so I kind of actually had really low expectations going in that, it was fun going to an abandoned place at night and, doing a little bit of exploring. I was basically only expecting that, and that was good enough for me. But I felt like something had grabbed my arm. And, in the video, if anybody's seen it or they haven't, they can go check that out. It's just one of those weird personal experiences as a paranormal investigator. It's not proof that there's anything paranormal. It's not proof that there's anything that it's a ghost or a spirit. It's just a personal experience that I had. And I know I felt it. And so I'm just sharing it as that. And if people want to, make their own minds about what I might have experienced, they're more than welcome to. That's the great thing about evidence. People can then make up their own minds about what may or may not be the evidence. But in this case, it was a personal experience. It was noteworthy to me, and I decided to share it.
Well, that's awesome. And we do that too, because it's been kind of slow around here, and so we don't get to keep our skills honed, so to speak. So a lot of times we'll just load up and go to a cemetery or, just anywhere that, we can get out there and just investigate, and you'll be surprised what you get, because we went to a cemetery that's out. Oh, it's a pretty good ways from where I live, but it don't have a name, and it's all growed up. And it had, I know you're familiar with the big old spike-like tombstones that stood up real tall. It had several of them that have either been knocked over or fell over or whatever, We were out there, and I took a picture, and I always look ahead of me to make sure that, what I see is what I see. And I took a picture across the base of these tombstones where they'd fallen over. And I didn't see anything when I took this picture, but when I looked at it later, there's something that looks like a black dog or something laying on the base of that tombstone. And I don't know where it came from. And then another buddy of mine, Lewis, took a picture out across the fence, and we'd been looking out there all night, and there's nothing out there. And he took this picture, and this rumpled red dress showed up. And it looks like a woman with her head tilted down, and you can see like almost where one arm's like holding up the skirt, and it's free floating in the air.
That's that one you posted, Roger. Right?
Yes, and somebody told me it was a camera blur, but camera blur would have blurred out everything, not just that. You know, there was a barbed wire fence running across there. It's not blurred. There was a little pine tree there. It's not blurred. Some limbs sticking up, you know, from laying on the ground there. They're not blurred. So, no, it's not a camera blur, but...
If I remember correctly, even the fence was pretty clear.
Exactly.
It was a wire fence.
A barbed wire fence, and you could see the barbed wire fence plain as day. It's not blurred. You know, and it's almost like the Holy Grail.
Oh, speaking of grails, okay, Alejandro, I was thoroughly delighted watching your Palace Theater, and you were over there, and you reset the film so it would start up where this. To me it looked like a gentleman coming off of the stage like he was going to the seats, but passed right by you like it was going down the stairs. Did you ever find out if that was an intelligent haunting or a residual?
Oh man, you know, they think it's a residual haunting at the Palace Theater. I appreciate you bringing that up. You know, that to this day I still see that, and I'm still wondering if I see that myself. If you look at it just the right way, it does look like there's a gentleman coming out of the screen, going across. And a lot of people commented on the video that was their impression of what they saw. So, you know, I did do a follow-up video to that, kind of showing how I analyzed it. You know, it's so, you get so excited, you really want it to be that's what you caught. But, you know, it's really also hard to it's kind of funny, like the better the evidence you get, the more you almost doubt it. You just can't be that good, right? You do all these investigations waiting for like this one piece of great evidence, and when you capture it, you're like, it just can't be that good. You have to like triple, quadruple check it. But, you know, I really think when it boils down to, that might have been just an orb, honestly. But in the video, it does look like a full body apparition, like the body of the gentleman. But I did a video after that, and a lot of people actually said they liked that video even more, where I showed how I analyzed it a bunch of different ways until the point that it no longer looked like a figure. Instead, it looked like a dust orb that had, you know, kind of the perfect timing of pixelation with the rest of the video started to look like a gentleman. And that's kind of like going back to your picture where you're talking about how the fence is clear, everything else clear, so all the stuff around the entity, the one with the red skirt, adds up to where it should not be, you know, something with the camera or something with the picture. There's just too many things in the picture to say this shouldn't happen. And I did the same thing, except in my case, I think what I discovered was it wasn't really a full body apparition. But there's still a lot of people, even after seeing that analysis, who think it is.
That was a wonderful job.
Dang, I forgot what I was going to say there, Hank. Go ahead if you got something.
Basically, all I was doing was reconfirming everything that he had done. He did a wonderful job. He went through, tried to debunk it, analyzed it, and like I'm so fond of using, if you've eliminated all that is possible, only left with the impossible, then therefore that is the truth.
Yes, indeed. What I was going to say, I remember now. For everybody that's listening out there, you can catch the Dead Explorer on YouTube. He posts new videos about weekly, so y'all check that out. Subscribe, give him a thumbs up, because he does an awesome job.
Well,
I've signed up myself.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, you said something about new episodes on Monday nights. Did I hear that correctly during your YouTube broadcast?
Yeah, you know, the upload date, I know I've had this long running trailer on my channel. That's basically what somebody will see the first time they go on my channel and they've never been a subscriber. YouTube has to set up where they see this basically introductory video. And I used to do Monday nights, but it's been Tuesday nights for a while now. I try to do them every week. I sometimes give myself weeks off, just because it is a lot of work. But I have tons of investigations coming up. This Sunday I'm going to the USS Lexington, which is considered one of the most haunted places in Texas. And then I also have a road trip planned, basically kind of a marathon ghost hunting session with 4 nights of four nights of ghost hunting in a row in parts of Texas that probably a lot of people aren't familiar with these cases. So it's going to be a nice little combination of a really famous place that everybody kind of is aware of, and also some places off the map. And just with those 5 investigations between now and the end of the month, I know there's going to be a lot of new videos coming out on YouTube and on the Dead Explorer website, where I hope to actually start releasing longer versions of all my investigations this fall.
That's
Looking
awesome.
forward to that.
Yeah, really. Folks, everybody listening in, you can call in if you have a question for Alejandro at 716-745-4266.
I've also taken the liberty of putting that up in the chat room too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, cool.
Alejandro, you do a lot of photography stuff, I mean, did you do like the photography first and then become an investigator, or was it kind of the other way around, or sort of just all together?
Yeah, kind of like the last bit, sort of all together. I probably did the video stuff a little bit first, a little bit longer, but I can go back to my childhood, where me and my friends would make movies with camcorders with tapes, and you'd have to edit them. I don't even remember honestly how we edited them. I just remember we did them. In the 7th grade or 6th grade. And as far as the paranormal, I've always been into the paranormal. I was into the paranormal since I was a little kid. I was just really, really obsessed with it. I would go check out books in the library on cryptids and witches and ghosts and UFOs and everything that kind of falls under the paranormal umbrella. And I know witches is not necessarily paranormal. It's a real, religion with the Wiccan. But, everything that you can think of is paranormal and mainstream. I was really into it as a young person. So, messing around, shooting videos. I remember we did like a Star Trek spoof with my friends when we were in the 7th grade, and we built a set in our church. So it's kind of been something I've been doing forever. And as far as ghost hunting, honestly, I didn't really realize that you could ghost hunt until the TV show started coming out. And so it's kind of funny, ghost hunters, when it first started, I know y'all talked about the early stuff. That's when I used to watch Ghost Hunters, was the early stuff. And then Destination Truth came out, and those were probably my 2 favorite shows. And I was like, wow, people ghost hunt and people look for cryptids. That's really cool. I want to do that.
Exactly.
So I went out to a cemetery. The first night I went out to a cemetery, and I went to a haunted bridge. I just Googled it, haunted places near me in Austin, and I took a camcorder and not knowing what you needed to do. It didn't have night vision, and I just kind of winged it. And I got hooked. I said, I want to do more investigating. I wasn't necessarily planning on doing videos. I kept putting videos on YouTube, but it wasn't about ghost hunting. I was just putting random stuff up on YouTube, just like I was doing Star Trek spoofs in the 7th grade. And people say, when are you going to do more ghost hunting videos? And I said, I guess people want to see that. And it's kind of like just this very natural thing just came together. I said, I'm definitely going to keep ghost hunting. I'm definitely keep shooting videos, and people seem to be asking for it. I'm just going to, I guess that's what I'm going to do. And next thing I know, people really responded to it. And I mean, to this day, I still am surprised and get, a real kick out of knowing people really enjoy what I'm doing. It's real humbling, and it's also a real privilege, to be able to do something that people really enjoy. And I take that very seriously.
When I take my team out for training or new members, that's where we'll go. We've got 3-4 different cemeteries here in the Graham and Tacoma area that we frequent. In fact, one we get EVPs. Hey, the guys are back.
Wow, they're used to you, huh?
We've learned. I don't know about you. We've learned that aside from the fact that ghosts are people too, they still have memory. They still want to be recognized. And they don't like being alone.
Well, I think that's very important to remember that, I don't know how different people take, what their perspective on what ghosts are. It could be, some people think they're just energies in another dimension. Some people obviously, go the traditional route that it's people who've passed away and it's their afterlife. I think that alone, if that is the case, and I'm open-minded that it could be anything, and if that's the possibility, this is somebody who was once living and now they're dead. If you take that to heart, you should be treating them with as much respect as you would a living person. You wouldn't go up to a person on the street that you've never met and start insulting them and start being rude to them and demanding them to do things for you. Like do this, do that, touch this, do that. I think that if you think ghosts are people who have passed away, then the extension of that is that you treat them with the same respect you would the living, because they're still a person, and nobody deserves to be disrespected, especially if it's at a location where that was their last final place on earth. I think that's an even bigger significance as far as respecting where you're at. So I think that is something very important to be conscious of.
Okay, everybody, we are coming to you from WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York. We got to take a short pause, but we'll be right back.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
Hello, we're back, everybody. Hope
Welcome
you
back,
enjoyed
everybody.
that little break. Let's just jump right back into where we were there.
Alejandro, I got a
Go
question
ahead.
for Alejandro. While we were watching, now, my co-founder for Renegade Investigators of the Paranormal is here with us, listening to the show, and we were talking. We were watching your videos, Alejandro. Do you have anybody, or do you use rods? Some people call them divining rods, or just wire crosses. You do?
Actually, no. I know what you're talking about. I don't personally have rods. I've used them though. Actually, on the USS Hornet, somebody brought them, and I asked if they would teach me how to use them. And so, I don't think in the 10, 15 minutes that I got to hold them that I could master using them like Cindy has. Cindy Martin, she's a Deck Explorer fan. She was at the Hornet. She came out to see me. It was really cool to meet her, and she had rods. So it was the first time I ever got to use them. That was in February of this year, and I think it takes practice to be able to use them correctly. Honestly, because as a new piece of equipment, I was really studying how she held them, how the technique of establishing that crossing is a yes and straights are a no, or vice versa. I might be mixing it up. And I was really, really studying her. It's like, is she moving them? And no matter how hard I watched, I couldn't see anything to suggest to me that she was manipulating them. But at the same time, when I tried to hold them, I didn't have the skill set to necessarily keep them straight like she did. So I used them. It was cool. I mean, I saw her ask questions, and I saw her ask questions that are yes or no. And I'm open to any type of equipment or any type of way to communicate with spirits. Like I said before, there's no one thing we know so far that has been invented to definitively say we've caught ghosts. So, but at the same time, if you're open-minded enough to think spirits exist, I think in essence, you should also be an open-minded person about different techniques. And so it was cool to see her do it. I was really, really fascinated, and I'm glad she gave me a chance to try.
We were talking about when we were doing EVPs and we weren't getting anything, Ed's rods were doing, shall we say, doing all the talking. And that's why I was wondering if maybe that might be something that you would consider.
I'm always open-minded to anything because, you never know exactly what kind of results you might get. And you just have to take any piece of equipment like you would, and any experience and any piece of evidence, just like you would in all scenarios. If it's a millimeter, if it's rods, if it's a K2, you kind of have to just factor everything that's going on as you're using them, what you got from them, and is there a logical explanation? And I think it was said perfectly earlier, when everything logical gets ruled out, then it might be the impossible. That's a great line. I love the way that was said. And I think you just use all equipment like that. And so I'm definitely open to rods or any type of equipment. I think it's really cool when I use something new for the first time, honestly.
I never got to try that. I was actually around somebody, I can't even remember where it was now, it was a long time ago, but I was around somebody that actually had some, and I was like you, I'm sitting there watching them, and I'm going, are they doing that, or is it really doing it itself or whatever? And I was watching their hands because I was just sure that they were doing it, and but I couldn't see their hands move.
Yeah.
But I would see the rods cross, and I'm like, they got to be doing that, But no, it's really interesting though. I would love to learn how to use those. I think it'd be pretty neat to do that. And you can use those, like if, say for instance, you're somewhere and you didn't happen to think to bring a recorder with you. Okay, so you're not doing the EVP with the recorder. You could do it with that, where they could either answer yes or no. If it don't ever move, nothing's there. If it starts moving and answering you, then you got something. So
yeah, and I think it's been about evidence with rods. And again, just replace rods with a millimeter. I'm not singling rods out. We just happen to be talking about them. Is that no matter how much that you're using them, you're not moving them, if you know how to use them correctly, and that you're getting intelligent responses, there's always going to be someone out there who's going to doubt whether or not that's real. They're going to say, they have to move, because they're just not going to believe no matter what it is. If it's a picture, if it's an EVP recording, if it's a piece of video, they're just never going to believe. So, really the first person you got to kind of just basically do this for is yourself, and what's your level of what you believe in, and that's all that matters, and then once you've caught evidence that matches what you believe in, then you can share with others and let them make up their own mind for what it is. And so, it's funny that I was studying those rods, but at the end of the day, only the person using them is really going to know, what they're experiencing is real or not. And it's kind of hard to say it's real or not, but I think that there's room for all types of techniques. And those who are going to be skeptics are going to be skeptics anyway.
Well, people who don't want to believe aren't going to believe. You could have an apparition pop up right in their face, and they swear up and down it was rigged. I mean, some people just won't believe it, not if it's right in their face.
Like Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, to do each their own. They're as much as entitled to not want to believe in the afterlife or in ghosts. And maybe afterlife's too strong because some people believe in afterlife but not ghosts on Earth. But some people are just not going to believe, and that's okay. They're entitled to believe in what they want to. And if they don't believe in what I do, they go on with their own life, and I'll go on doing what I want to do with my life. And with me, that's ghost hunting.
Right, exactly. I started doing this because I saw, a couple apparitions when I was about 9 years old. And one of them was my next door neighbor's mother that passed away, and she walked by me, looked just as real as anybody. Cut into my yard, look around, nothing there. Well, my grandparents and my mom and all them drove it through my head that there's no such thing as ghosts. You just imagined you saw that, blah, 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 blah. And eventually I didn't see anything anymore. Well, then, like you was talking about, when Ghost Hunters came out, I'm like, you mean you can really do that? And I said, well, I know I didn't imagine what I saw back then. So, if I can do that and prove what I saw, I want to prove it to myself. So, right. If anybody else don't believe me, that's fine. They can do what they got to do. But, I got to prove it to myself that I didn't imagine what I saw. And I've got several good EVPs. I got one actual transparent video on an IR camera that you can see a figure moving around in. And then, of course, like I said, the picture that we caught at the cemetery out there was pretty interesting. But when I put my evidence up, I always tell everybody, if you can disprove it, and you can disprove it to the point to make me believe that I didn't see what I saw, I'll toss it out. I have no problem with that. But until you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that I didn't see what I saw, or I didn't capture what I think I did, then, I'm going to stand behind what I got. And, because it's for me more than it really is the public anyway. It don't really matter if they believe me or not.
Like I have on my Facebook page, I have a photo file, and I've got it titled, "For Your Inspection." In other words, you can accept it or not, but here's what I've got.
Yeah, and I think that's really a good approach. I mean, it says I'm open to communication as well. I'm open to feedback, and I think that's ghost hunters, or I used to use the TV term, but paranormal investigators. We are always growing. I think that every investigation makes me a better paranormal investigator than I was before. And
right.
I think part of that is just over time, you're what you see, what you hear also changes with experience. And just the way that you were saying for your inspection, you're opening up the dialogue that, if anything, will only improve you. I mean, in my personal experience, I have these videos that, some of them get thousands of views, and there's a lot, not all of the feedback's positive. it comes with the territory on YouTube, but there's also been times that negative feedback has actually made me say, there's enough people trying to, making this point that I'm going to take it in and put it through my head for a couple of days. And maybe there's something in what they're saying to me that'll make me a better investigator in the future. And I think that's how you grow.
Right. Well, and most of us as investigators are harder on our own evidence than anybody else would be anyway. If I get something, I got to look at it and pull it this way and tear it that way. And, could it have been this? And, maybe it could have been that. And, I tear it upside down and sideways and everything before I even put it up there for somebody to look at anyway. And, if I can't disprove it to myself in any way, I put it up there and I give everybody else opportunity. Hey, you can tear it down, pull it this way, rip it that way. And if you can make me believe that it ain't what it is, I'll toss it out. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's all you can do. You can only try your best. You go through it the best you can, and that's all you're really trying. Honestly trying to analyze it the best you can, and then you share it with people and let them decide for themselves what they see.
Now, some of your videos, I love some of the places that, I couldn't say where they were, but just looking in the general areas that it's showing, like the one with the really long hallway. Where was that at?
Oh, is it the one where I was inside a warehouse? A real long hallway? I feel like I've been in so many long hallways.
Well, and you were going down through there and you kept saying, man, this is a long hallway. It was going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah, I think that was a warehouse. It's funny. That's one of those private cases. It's a person who works at a warehouse. I can't really say what kind of business it's in because they wanted to keep, the location and their identity private, but it was a warehouse for a business, and they thought there was something in that warehouse, and I think those cases are really a lot of fun. When I'm saying this month I'm going to Lexington, I'm super excited about going to Lexington, but I also get really excited about exploring places like these cases that that are private cases or unknown. You just kind of hear about them because somebody refers you, because you're going in with a blank slate, not knowing what to expect, and you just kind of go in, with a blank canvas as an investigator, trying to, use different techniques to collect, to see if we can document any paranormal activity. And I have a kick from those cases, and most of my cases are really more along those lines than some of the big places that people probably seen or heard of, maybe on TV or on the internet or in a book.
Well, now see, that's you talking about the bigger places and everything. The TV shows, like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and the Clean Brothers and all them, they've kind of made it hard on everybody else.
No, the Clean Brothers, Everyday Paranormal.
Yes, because after they go to these places, they become more famous than they already were, and then they start charging through the nose for people to come in there, And it's made it kind of hard on the average, investigator to be able to go to these places.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. You basically have to split the cost up, amongst your group. Sometimes you gotta go in with a little bigger group than you actually want to go in, which becomes the problem with, contamination of the evidence and contamination of the investigation.
Right.
But some of those places are so cool that you kind of say, okay, on this time we'll go. I've done the Birdcage Theater. I've done the Hornet. I'm doing the Lexington. So there's times you just make it happen, but I think as an average person out there, it'd be very hard to go to all locations all the TV shows have been to, because, like you said, it becomes expensive. They get used to the fact that people know of them and they charge them fee, and that's okay. That's, I guess, free enterprise. But there's what I would then say the flip side, if I was going to say anything in a positive way about it, is that people just, or as a positive alternative, is that people just need to know that that's not the only places. That there are other places that have paranormal activity, and if you do a little bit of research, if you go online, you can find some places. If you go out, there's forums where you can meet people. If you start off as not even having a group, there's forums you can go on, meet other people in your area, create a group, find out what they've done. They may recommend a place, and there's other alternatives out there that are just as rewarding as going to a really famous haunted location.
Now, are you still doing the haunted locations by state and all that stuff that you were doing before?
Yeah, I put up a guide of haunted locations by state on deadexplorer.com. So I think I got to about 40 states and 42 states. And, it was just as a guide. So if somebody wants to look up, I think the most popular page is most haunted places in Tennessee, I guess.
Well, I tried to open that one, and it wouldn't open for me. It said page does not exist or something like that.
One of the things that happened really recently is that deadexplorer.com moved servers, moved hosts, and it's a completely new website. And so if by any chance you might have gone through in those couple of days that they were like that, there's a chance that those posts might have been temporarily down. But like the individual posts, like the Tennessee and what have you, they're working, and it's the more I find out about any weird little little cracks in the switchover, like you share with me, it helps me because then I can address it. So I did switch, but the big motivation for me to switch was that I just felt like the old website was really limited in what I was able to do and share with people. There was really a lot of ways, not a lot of ways for me to provide the content the way I wanted. It didn't have drop menus, which I think makes it easier for people to find stuff like the most haunted locations. And so I wanted to switch to a new place where there would be more user-friendly features for people to use when they go on the website. And I'm really excited about the direction it's going. And in this fall, I really hope to do full episodes on the website for those who've been wanting to see them. Because the one complaint I get is from some people is that they want longer episodes than what I put up on YouTube. And I've been promising forever and ever I would do that. And I'm going to finally be able to follow up on that promise. And that's what the new deadexplorer.com is basically. That's the direction it's headed. But I'm also looking forward to sharing a lot of paranormal news, putting a spotlight on other paranormal groups, and doing a lot of more other stuff in the future that, when there isn't always a video, there's other stuff on deadexplorer.com for people to enjoy that promotes the paranormal community. So I'm really excited about where it's going. And to answer your question, yeah, that's probably why it was down, but there is hopefully in the long run a good reason behind it. If hopefully everybody will like where the website's going.
Well, me being a old hillbilly from Tennessee, naturally I went to look there. But
well, I appreciate it. It should be on there. Just go on the site and look Tennessee, and if it don't work, send me a message so I can fix it, because I definitely want to make sure everything's working right.
But and I hear everybody, and I know you're just like I am, like Hank is, and some of the other, teams and groups out there. We like to promote unity. We like to share, places if we know of any, and we just like to help promote and give back, And you hear all these people talking about there's no such thing as paranormal unity. Well, maybe you ain't looking in the right place,
Maybe you aren't trying hard enough.
Exactly, because there are some of us out there that do promote unity.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's kind of like that. It's like everything in life. Nothing in any topic is ever absolute 100%. I know people want things to be, you're on one side of the fence or the other, and that's the only thing there can be. But, I think prayer unity on the most simple common denominator is just about, treating people how you would want to be treated in every situation, and being civilized, and being open-minded to other people, and helping others, and helping others as you hope somebody would help you one day. And I think that's applies to everything in life. So like everything in life, the paranormal is a microcosm of everything else. There's always going to, in everything you do, in sports, and work, and in friendships, there's always going to be a naysayer. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't have everybody's best interest in heart, and that's not exclusive to the paranormal. It's just people as we are in general. So I think a lot of times when you look at the paranormal community, there's a lot of parallels to everything else in life: work, relationships, and you're going to have people who get it and are going to be like easy to be friends with, and there's going to be people who are going to be naysayers, want to be left alone, want to always be the hater, and not everybody has to be on board, and that's okay. But I think if you can find the people who are like-minded like you, and work with them, and help them, and be friends with them, I don't think there's anything more rewarding.
Well, I just, I believe that we're not here to tear each other down. There's a lot of them out there that, for lack of better words, they're greedy. If they think they want to be the number one team, out there, and they don't want to share anything with anybody, and they're always putting down unity. Well, it's because, like I said, they're just greedy, and it's true. And it's sad because there's so much more we could learn. If the teams just worked together more, and was more willing to share what they know and what they've learned. There's so much you can learn out there, and there's so much going on in the paranormal field these days, and there's more and more people getting involved, and I like to promote the unity. For one, I like to help newbies that so that they don't rush out there, not knowing anything about what they're doing, and wind up getting hurt, or and it is easy to get hurt when you're investigating certain places. And I try to tell people, hey, if you want to start a team and you want to get involved, I'm happy for you, and I'll help you any way I can. But please, get with somebody that has some experience. Learn a little bit about what to do and what not to do before you get out there and start trying to make that name for yourself. And that's unity. That's not all in a nutshell, but basically to me that's sharing the unity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I can't disagree with you with anything you said. I think it is very important to help others, and I think that's just applies to everything in life. And I think of when I was younger, not even in paranormal situations, just think of mentors that's come across your life and how they've impacted you, and how when you get older, are you gonna pay it forward? Are you gonna do the same for others? And I've worked probably with about I think I've lost count. I know it's over a dozen paranormal groups on that Explorer. And I've seen both ends of the spectrum as far as investigation styles. I've seen teams that are so skeptical and conservative to the point that nothing in the night will ever be paranormal, and it almost takes the fun out of it. And then on the other extreme, you have those who jump at every little thing, and everything's paranormal. And you're also kind of like, well, why aren't you debunking? But I think that at the end of the day, it's good to see both approaches, because then you take those approaches work for those people, and that's what they need to do. That's what makes them able to investigate. That's them being themselves, and I respect that. But I also get the best of both worlds. I get to learn a little bit from them, and then come up add to my identity, so my identity keeps evolving as well. And that comes from just collaborating and seeing other people's styles, and maybe they take a little bit away from my style in the way they investigate too.
That's
And I'm a big proponent for all of that because I've experienced it firsthand over and over again.
right.
With what
And
you've done on your show, The Dead Explorer, actually can serve as a inspiration of how other people can share information. Like here in my local area, we've had a few groups that have tried to spring up. I have a friend in South Africa that I am trying to encourage to get into even if him and a couple other people go together. At least A, they're not alone. B, they have verification of evidence plus their own regular evidence. We just try to help each other out and provide information, what we're not doing, what we're doing wrong, what you shouldn't be doing wrong, and evaluation even of new equipment.
that's true.
Yeah.
And also, uh, when you have these people, they'll throw together a couple of guys, and they'll get them a camera or two and a recorder or whatever, and they think they know everything. And I by no means know it all and never will. But I'm just saying that's how you have things happen, like the place that burned down here recently. I'm sure everybody's caught that, and it was a haunted
Yeah, it's
mansion
been printed. Yeah,
that burnt down, and it was these guys went in there under the uh, name of ghost hunting, so to speak, and they burnt the place down. And stuff like that happens when people either they didn't care or they just weren't properly trained and didn't know what they were doing. You know, Nobody knows everything about the paranormal. I don't think anybody ever will. I mean, I've heard of people that's been in the field for 30 years or more that still don't claim to know everything. But when you come out raw like that and you don't know anything, you know, it's really easy to cause a lot of damage, and that damage is irreplaceable. You know, and that to me is part of why I say, unity should include, offering to help these teams out, work with them, help teach them, you know. Uh, Alejandro, I noticed on some of your videos, that, you were talking about being with such and such team here and such team there. You
Mm-hmm.
work together, and, that's the way it should be, especially for people that are just starting out.
Right, and I feel like if some paranormal teams hadn't reached out to me when I was first starting off, kind of seeing what I was doing in the very early days of Dead Explorer, I probably wouldn't be as far ahead as I am now, and I'm not very far by any sense of the term, but I'm just saying that I'm further ahead thanks to them that I ever would have been on my own, and so I'm
Okay,
very grateful
folks.
for this relationship.
We're coming to you live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. We got to take another little pause, but hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
We're back. Welcome back.
Welcome. Hank, you up there in Washington, you do a lot of cemeteries and stuff up there, don't you?
Yes, we do. Like I said, it's an area that we also take our new members and do some training with.
Now, I'm just going to ask this because
Go for it.
automatically when you look at a what's the word? Dadgummit, I'm drawing a blank.
Cemetery?
The buildings that, not the gravestones, but the
Mausoleums.
Mausoleums. There you go. I could not think of
There
it.
you go.
Do you find those to be haunted more often than like just out in the grave area or
To be
not?
point blank honest with you, okay? It not always. Not always. We have found open fields to be just as active as a mausoleum, and yet we've also had where there had been nothing in the mausoleum. Not that any of them are necessarily open, but I mean, we can go up and at least investigate from the outside. Allow me a perfect example, and I'm trying not to tell tales out of class. One of my members had gone to the old soldiers' home and was doing a EVP session outside, away from the main living residence and the offices. One of the old buildings that's basically condemned. He had, remember?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
He was over there and
Got
he
the little girl.
got not a little girl. Yeah, a little girl.
In the wheelchairs.
And you could hear the wheelchair races
Wow.
going up and down the ramps, because this part of the hospital was also used for returning vets that were either injured, lost limb. But you could hear them doing the wheelchair races. It was just awesome.
Now, see,
So
I would love.
you don't necessarily. A building doesn't necessarily mean it has paranormal activity. Just as an open field does not necessarily mean it's six of one, half a dozen of the other. Just like with Alejandro doing his haunted mission, he debunked the. Well, he wasn't sure about the scratching, but I heard the EVP of the child crying. Are you going to go back there at any time?
Let me tell you a funny story about that mission, and that might keep me from going back. That is the first time on an investigation that I had the Border Patrol and a police department all show up wondering what the heck I was doing. That mission is in Mission, Texas. Obviously, the town's named after the mission, and it's on the border of Texas and Mexico. It's probably less than 2 miles away from a border, from the border, physically the border.
Okay.
And we went during park curfew, but we were also wrapping up as park curfew was ending. And it's just an open, believe it or not, an open mission in an open place. You can park at it. It has, bathrooms like a park would, but it's nothing to keep you out of there. It's not locked. Nobody comes out here at night to do anything. I guess it's because it was so remote. And as we're packing up, a helicopter comes out of nowhere, does about 5 circles sub over us and goes away. And we're leaving the place, and all of a sudden you got 3 identical white SUVs showing up and a police car. And so it was really funny. But long story short, I think when they said, what are you doing here? And we said, ghost hunting, I think they did a double take, because that's probably the first time they've ever heard that. And they were really cool because once they realized we were paranormal investigators, the first thing they wanted to do was recommend about 5 other places for us to check out. But I think I probably overstayed my welcome there this time around, just knowing that, that all that attention got brought onto us, because I guess we were in a place that some people normally that's some of the risks. You go back talking about risks about investigating and telling people, that they need to be careful. That's another risk. You could be at the wrong place at the wrong time and run into people you don't want to run into. And I guess that's a place that maybe had been on the radar. So I'm glad that they showed up, and I'm glad they were really cool once they found out we were ghost hunters. But I think after an experience like that, you're like, I think I'm good there.
What we've done. Sorry, Roger. He brings up an excellent point that we do up here, is when we're out in a area, especially like a cemetery, someplace that may not get frequented very much, we'll call the local authorities to let them know that who we are, how many of us are going to be there, how long we're going to be there, and our reason for being there. And they go ahead and they check us off and, okay, give us a call when you leave. The last place we were at the Roy Cemetery, Roy, Washington, we were just getting ready to pack it up, and here comes the sheriff's department coming by, and I just waved, and they just kind of waved back and went on their merry.
No, I think that's really good advice. For sure.
We had that to happen one time. Me and my daughter and my son-in-law was doing a little cemetery outside of town here where I live, and we were out there, and we hadn't called anybody, told anybody, but we were out there, and we were doing our thing, Well, we decided to go back to the car and take a little break, And as we're coming down to the car, here comes this police car pulling up. And the funny thing about it was he didn't look like any of the local police cars or even the sheriff's department, where I live. It was a funny looking color and everything. But anyway, he gets out. He's all uniformed up with his flashlight, hand on his gun like we were robbing Fort Knox, And anyway, he asked us what we were doing. We told him. And hell, he turned around and started telling us about these other haunted cemeteries and places we ought to go check out, So, it turned out real good and everything, but it was just funny the way he come up there like Barney Fife with his hand on his gun and his flashlight, What are y'all doing? We told him what we were doing, and he's like, well, yeah, there's this cemetery up over there, and so-and-so you ought to go check out.
Yeah, it's funny, because I think that's actually a big reaction I get from a lot of time, that somebody tells somebody I'm a paranormal investigator. It seems like somebody always has a place to recommend, or they have a friend that something's happened to, and I think it always really does evoke a big response from people, even from skeptics. I think it's a topic that when you bring it up in real life, especially with people who are paranormal investigators, I think there's always a fascination about what we do with people. I think people think it's interesting, and I think it's the reason why. I think it's because we're all always really trying to answer that big question that nobody can answer, is what happens to us when we pass away. And I think that's a question that's been around for centuries and thousands of years. I think that's the people we all wonder, and I think it resonates to a bigger core of ourselves, and knowing that our lives on this earth end. And I always find that there's always a lot of really strong reactions from people when they find out you're a paranormal investigator. And a lot of times it's positive. They do, like, I guess we all had the same experience. The local authorities wanted to tell us where to go next, which is pretty cool.
Right. And, even some people that claim they don't believe in any of that stuff really deep down want to know. They just don't want to admit it because they're afraid other people will look down on them. So, And a lot of them will tell you, well, I heard such and such place was haunted, but I don't believe in that stuff. So they try to put it off to where they're not putting themselves out there, but they're trying to give you a place to go,
Yeah,
I've had that happen a
that
couple
too.
times too.
Let that freak flag fly.
Exactly.
Another thing too that we found that helps us out is when we are getting permission from, let's just say a city council to investigate their city cemetery. If you provide them with evidence of what you've done, and even offer to take a member of, whether it's a member of their police department or a member of their courtroom staff or something like that. City council. Thank you. It goes a long way with your credibility and with your helping.
No, I've been amazed over time. I've seen paranormal groups have that exact kind of relationship to the point where they're getting recognized by the city that they live in, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well, trees, for some reason, trees just stuck with me. When we were in that cemetery that night before the police officer showed up, we were in the very bottom of corner, I want to say the northeast corner, and we were doing some EVP at a soldier's grave. And my son-in-law, he's down there with the recorder, and he's down on his knees, and my daughter's standing over there right next to him and everything, and I'm kind of off over here to the side. And I kept looking up the hill, and there's an old sycamore tree up there. And you know how those things are twisted, and they just look creepy anyway. And I kept seeing what looked like a head peeking out, and then they'd go back, and they'd peek out, and they'd go back. And I'm telling them, look, there's somebody peeping out at us up there, and there wasn't nobody there but us. And I'd look, and it would peep out, and it'd pull its head back, and it'd peep out, and it'd pull its head back. I said, we need to go up there, and there's like one tombstone that's like right behind the tree and where the road is there. There was the road, the tree, and then a tombstone there. And I'm thinking, well, is this the guy that inhabits this grave right here? Is he, peeping at us out from behind the tree? And, of course, we got up there. You didn't see anything. But you could just feel this overwhelming, like an EMF field, for lack of anything better. Like where, you got a real high EMF and it makes you dizzy or something, or, I was standing there by that tree, and I just felt this overpowering like EMF wave, and it literally made me dizzy. So I'm like, well, I'm going to step over here, and why don't you go check out that tree?
Hey, Roger.
I just thought that was really weird, And
hey, Roger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Every time you took a breath, I was trying to catch you so I wouldn't interrupt you. Someone's asked, what is the scariest investigation Alejandro has done?
Oh, the scariest. That's a good question, because
other than the mission.
When I got scared by the police, I'll tell you a real scary moment as an investigator was when I did an investigation of a haunted jail, or a jail. I won't say it's necessarily haunted, but of a jail and a county jail, and there was this room called the lunatics room where they would put female prisoners and lunatics together, because for some reason, I guess back then, they were so scared of women, they would put them with the lunatics. And in there was an investigator with me. He's a freelance investigator. His name is J.B. Arell, and it was just a very, very creepy night. He started, basically, you could tell something was going on because he was provoking, which is something he doesn't do, but he was provoking, I don't think because he was trying to see if he could get a response. He started provoking like somebody had taken over him, and turn him into this huge aggressor, which he normally is not. He doesn't provoke. And shortly after that, he basically looked like he was having some kind of physical reaction to something. He was choking. He was keeling over. I mean, it was super, super scary. Not necessarily because I can say it was a ghost or because it was paranormal. I was really scared for his physical well-being. I mean, we rushed him out of that jail. He's outside. He's got tears running down his face. His eyes are bloodshot red. And he says he's being choked. And so, I think that was one of those nights that had a huge impact on me as a paranormal investigator, because it was one of those times where I learned that, hey, you could be 1 second away from even an emergency where somebody's health is in jeopardy, and you need to be prepared. And so I learned a lot from that. And so, in hindsight, I can't tell anybody that was really paranormal or a ghost attacked Jay. If you ask him, he'll say he was attacked. In fact, he works for a jewelry store, and his jewelry store got robbed that week after the investigation. And he also said at home he was being very mean to his family, which is Jay's the sweet family man. And in his mind, all of that was because of the investigation and because of what happened, especially his store getting robbed. And of all the years he's been in the profession of being a jeweler. And so, only Jay will know, for certain what he experienced. He's the only one who's going to be inside Jay's head, know what he felt, and he's the only one who's going to really know what happened. And it goes down to everybody else as Jay having a personal experience. But it was very scary, and it taught me a lot as from a safety point of view of how to be better prepared for an investigation. But it also made you ask a lot of questions about if it was paranormal, how am I prepared for that possibility as well? And so what turned out to be a normal night ended up being a very scary moment, and that's the scariest moment I've ever had on an investigation.
Wow. Do you do any kind of prayer before you go in? For us, we use a St. Michael prayer.
I do pray. Sometimes before, sometimes at the end, sometimes I just forget. Honestly, depending on, if it's been a slow night or if nothing happens, sometimes you kind of let your guard down. But it is something I do just for my own personal peace of mind. And I can't say prayer protects you. I can't say prayer is the way for an investigator to protect himself from something bad happening. But it's something that gives me a personal peace of mind, and that's why I personally do it. And I'm sure there's, people talk about necklaces and oils and rocks and, whatever makes somebody feel at peace because they believe in it, then that's what they need to do. And for me, it's prayer and it's wearing my cross, and that's just a personal choice. And that's something that makes me feel like at least I'm doing something. But there's other things that go into being prepared for a situation like that as well that I feel work for me.
Well, there's the St. Michael's prayer that Hank was talking about, that you do like before you enter into an investigation area or whatever. And then there's also like a closing prayer that goes with that you do when you're leaving. I guess basically to keep anything from maybe following you home or, attaching to you for a free ride or something.
Yeah, no, and that's the basis of what I pray is, to take me home safely, that nobody attaches itself to me or to my equipment or to anybody else I'm with. But I also not only pray that, I also say that to the spirits. I set some ground rules before I investigate as far as like, look, this is who I am. This is why I'm here. I'm here to communicate. I'm not here to be your enemy. I try to treat them with respect, because if somebody's a spirit what's living at once, they'd probably be upset at you if they were alive and you went up to them and started, cussing them out and yelling at them. So I don't know how it would be any different if they're dead. And then
Right.
not you thank them and say, look, this is your place. You stay here. I'll go my home. That's where I'm going. And it was a nice night, and thank you for everything. And, I think so far it's worked. And I don't know if it's because I do that, but it's what gives me peace of mind.
Right, and a lot of times we'll say, we appreciate you letting us come into your area and talk with you and everything like that, but you got to stay here. You can't go with us.
I mean,
think
have you ever met someone who's had somebody go home with them? Because, I have a friend who says they have, and it's always very interesting to hear that. Javier, who's the guy who was with me on that video in the mission,
Right.
he's kind of like a freelance investigator closer to the border, and he had a little girl go home with him in an investigation, and he'll tell me that he would hear her giggling, that he would walk down a hallway and his shadow would be there, and then a little girl's shadow would be behind him, and that little girl was following him around everywhere. So finally he went out and said, all right, he talked to the girl, said, we're going back home to your home. Get inside my truck. He got inside his truck. He drove 3 hours back to the investigation site, told her to get out. And he said when he went home, the spirit was gone. And, Javier's a pretty, it's when you hear stories like that from people who you think are really credible, you know them personally, you don't think they would just make it up or their mind would perceive something that's not there, and you hear something like that, it really makes you wonder. And that's why I prepare for those situations, because, one, you never know. I'm open-minded enough to think ghosts exist. Therefore, I have to be open-minded enough to think they can come with me. And also because somebody that I know in the community has had that experience. So I have to put some weight into that. And I don't know. It's interesting. He's still, to me, to this day, if anybody talks about that topic, I always tell Javier's story, because I think he's the best person I've personally known to tell me they have had that happen.
Right. I have a medium friend who went somewhere in Santa Barbara, California, to do a house cleansing and got, for lack of better words, possessed by something that went home with her. And she went through a whole lot of mess before she was able to get rid of that, whatever it was. She didn't comment that, whether it was a spirit or whether it was supposed to be something demonic or what have you, but she said that she was like really sick and drained and down and everything for days, after that. And she finally managed to, with some help from some other people, get rid of it and everything and get back, back on her feet again and everything. But she said she had never experienced anything like that before, and she's done a lot of house cleansing and all that stuff. So, it just goes to show you that you can let your guard down for, like a split second, and you can wind up in bad trouble.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's when you let your guard down, it's almost when it's most likely to happen. And in a way, you have to become conscious of when you're doing that. And that only happens with experience, and sometimes you only take it seriously when something happens, when it's almost too late. You learn the hard way.
Exactly.
And so with what happened with Jay, and he's another guy. So Jay and Javier have both had experiences where, they say something went home. In Jay's case, it was, I guess, bad, negativity. In Javier, it was the spirit. It was that moment that was a big wake-up call. But I can say before that I hadn't put down much weight into it, not because I didn't care or I was being foolish, It's just like when you're young, you think you're invincible, and then one day life beats you up a little bit, and you learn you're not. You're not. And as an investigator, you can start off the same way. Young and experienced. It's all exciting. You don't really know what's going to happen next, and you mature as an investigator. Sometimes you get punched a little bit as an investigator to teach you to prepare for the worst case scenarios. It's definitely a great lesson to learn, and it's something I've carried with me, and I think a lot of investigators have as well. I think a lot of investigators have had situations where they've known people that something happened to them, and that's where we all learn that we need to be cautious not to take any of it for granted, because like you said, within a second, anything can flip upside down.
Right.
And you never know when that could be.
And that's the thing, though. Okay, we got a break coming up. We're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York. We're going to take a little pause, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
Welcome back, everybody. We are going into the third quarter. It's 5th and goal. Well, anyway, Alejandro, man, it's been really interesting, and You know, you learn a lot of things. It's like you said, the more investigations you do, the more you learn and you become better and better at what you do. But also at the same time, you could get that cocky thing. Well, I pulled this off, for X amount of investigations and nothing ever bothers me. And it's that one time when you let that guard down, that, as you said, you can take some stuff home to mama and the kids, and you don't want to do that.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, kind of how we were talking a little bit off air just now, that's the one thing I even mentioned is that the thing that most worries me as an investigator is bringing something home is that I have, a wife and kids at home, and I don't want to bring anything negative to them. I choose to be a paranormal investigator. I choose to go out there and follow these things, but my kids have no choice. There's my daughter's 4, my son is 1, and my wife it's not a ghost hunt. She's not a paranormal investigator, and the thing that motivates me the most or makes me the most cautious is that I don't want to bring something to them that they never asked for, and that I don't want them to deal with. I mean, I'm there. I don't want them to deal with anything negative as a side effect of what I want to follow. And so, that's the biggest motivator of why I'm so cautious about how I go with the location and the spirits there is to protect the people at home from anything bad happening to them. But, that's because of where I am in life. I'm sure if I was without a wife, without kids, I would probably think different, but I can only be myself and only have my perspective on things. And that's what kind of motivates me. Everything that impacts you as a person also carries over to what kind of paranormal investigator you are. There's a hand-in-hand connection between who you are in life and the paranormal investigator that you become or how you investigate.
Well, also, when I'm on an investigation and everything, I worry about, what I'm going to take home, but I also worry about my teammates, are they being cautious? Are they, protecting themselves like they should? Is something going to go home with them or something going to attack them? Or, I'm just the co-founder of the team. Dusty Ward is the founder of the Half Past Dead team, but I worry about him and I worry about everybody else that's there because that's just how I am. I don't want nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that I carry with me that's not very glamorous, and I don't think it's the thing that people think, oh, that's ghost hunting. I carry a first aid kit with me. It's unopened, but I bought it specifically to take it ghost hunting, from that point forward, to the point where I'm worried about somebody gets a cut.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And people don't think about paranormal investigating as, somebody has a first aid kit in case somebody gets a scrape or a boo-boo. And that's the stuff people sometimes don't think about. But I think as a responsible investigator, you have to worry about the people you investigate with, and you have to take you're responsible for each other's safety.
Exactly.
You're responsible for your teammates' safety as much as they're responsible for you. You kind of have that thing in common, and so you have to be prepared.
Sing it.
You go in there, with I watch your back, you watch mine. You kind of have to watch out for each other because you can't have eyes in all directions at one time. If you're watching a certain area, say that there was a claim that something was going on in this certain area, and you're paying attention and focusing on that, you can't watch your back. And there's nothing that says that an entity can't come up behind you or attach to you from the back or from you, and of course from the front for that matter, because you're not going to see them. But that's why you watch out for each other, and that's why you always go in twos. I firmly believe in that.
To be a good leader, founder, a team member, you have to take responsibility not only for your team, but making sure that they are protected and safe themselves after the investigation. Even if you're having to do after actions, someone accidentally brought something home with him, and I've spent time with him helping to clear whatever it was that he had brought home with him, and I also gave him a few other extra tools to work with.
That's very true. That is very true.
Another angle that also goes into being, I guess, responsible or careful, however you want to phrase it, is that you also have a location that you have to think about as well, and the people who own that location, or work at that location, or live at that location.
Absolutely.
And you have to keep in mind that you get to leave, at the end of the night and go home, and your experience is over. Well, for the people who live or work with that activity, that haunting, however you want to say it, their life with that goes on. And
right.
If you go in there and stir something up, you could do a lot of damage, permanent damage to the people who have to deal with it after you leave. And for somebody to open their doors for you with the trust that you're going to take care of their home, their business, their location, you have to be responsible with what you do with the haunting as well. Otherwise, they're the ones who suffer the consequences long after you're gone.
That's true.
That's like the house that we had just done. Up in Bremerton, we had cleared 3 spirits, and we've kept up with after action reports with the client, and she's reporting to us that her and her family have finally been sleeping. So you have to be careful with what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, don't be afraid to admit you don't know, because
exactly.
you're going to hurt others, hurt yourself, as well as your reputation.
Make matters worse.
Yeah, and exactly, make matters worse for the client.
That is a very good point.
Thank you. I mean, it just goes to show that in the last probably half hour, we've talked about all the different factors of things that you're responsible for as a paranormal investigator. So going back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the show, what the paranormal investigation is sometimes what people only see, especially if they don't do it for themselves. And I love that for some people who can't investigate, or they're just feel more comfortable watching others doing it and going along for the ride. They don't know that some of them don't know that there's all these things that go into it. Responsibility to the client, responsibility to your family, responsibility to your team members. And I love this kind of conversation because it helps other investigators bring up a topic that we all should talk about. And for those who aren't investigators, it gives them some insight into everything that's involved when investigating. That's not just looking for a ghost. It's all these other things it's a lot of responsibilities that we have to juggle and try to do the best investigation we can on top of that, right? Because we still want to get the investigation done. So it's a lot of work, and it's rewarding, and I think it's great because when you talk about teammates and stuff like that, I love that type of stuff. I eat that stuff up. That's me in real life. I always love team environments, and I just love this kind of conversation and knowing that there's so many things you have to be responsible for. And I think that's a great message to share with others.
Well, that's a good, and going back to what I said about, newbies and people just getting into the paranormal field and everything, they won't realize all these things, In fact, I can't say I knew all that when I started. In fact, I didn't know much of anything when I started. I'm kind of like you said, I got my camera and I went out to a cemetery or something, and I said, "Oh, you can really do that? I want to do that," And I didn't know anything. Good Lord, I was as green as I don't know what. But I mean, I learned things and I tried to get with people who had some experience where I could learn some stuff from them because I did not know nothing. And I didn't know nothing about taking care of a teammate or taking care of a client or, all I knew about was you take your camera and your recorder and you go out there and you try to catch voices and you try to catch ghosts on film.
Yeah.
And while that is, one of the things that we do it for, yes, we like to get the evidence, we like to get the voices, we like to get video and all that. But at the same time, we have to be extremely careful about who we take with us. We have to take care of them kind of like you would your own child. I mean, you look out for them and you
Very much so.
And it is. It's kind of like having a family. Your team is like your family. And, if anything happens to one of your teammates, you're going to get very upset about all that. And you constantly, while you're trying to do your investigation in the back of your mind, you're always the ones that you can't see. If you got, say, 4 people on an investigation, you got one teammate with you, but you got 2 more somewhere else. In the back of your head, you're worried about, is something going to happen to them and I'm not going to be there. And, not that I could really stop it from happening, but if I was there, I could protect them some way or something. I mean, that's a lot about what it is, with us when we go out. If I can't see them, it's not like out of sight, out of mind. I'm wondering, are they safe? I'm wondering, are they protected? I'm wondering, what are they going to run into and everything? And I'm not going to be there to help. So
Radio and cell phone communication, always.
That is true. But, if you don't hear that radio go off, you're still going to be wondering what are they, what's going on.
It just minimizes, bro. It
does. But it can make you pull your hair out, dude. You wouldn't even think about it.
In my case, I don't have much hair left, but I know what you mean.
Well, I keep mine cut short, so it's hard to get a hold of. But, but now really, I mean, that is a good topic and everything, and I want to put that out there for anybody that's getting, that's newly coming into the field and wanting to learn, about all that. Always take care of each other, watch out for your teammates and, and watch out for each other because it's so easy. Him saying about bringing a first aid kit, by all means do that because some places you go, you never know when you're in the dark a lot of times. You're walking around with a night vision camera and all you're seeing is what you're seeing in that lens. So it'd be very easy to run into something, cut your leg, anything like that can happen. So, yeah, that's a good thing. Keep a first aid kit. Watch out for each other. Getting the evidence is great, but you don't want to do it at the risk of anybody getting hurt or anything like that. Take care of each other.
On one hand, if you look at it in the right way, it can be fun. Or even though you're doing something serious, it can be fun. That's why training your team, who does what, how they do it, how they're not alone, all these things makes a big difference. And then how you instruct your team goes a long way in how you trust them when they are out on their own.
That's true.
Attitude in the field, like Ed says.
That is very true.
And I think if you do get your bases all covered and you're prepared, then that's when you can go have fun and enjoy investigating.
Exactly.
it goes both ways. You can't get so heavy-handed you take the fun out of it because it's supposed to be fun. To me, it's supposed to be fun. Why do you do things in life? Because you like it. I like investing.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
it's fun, and it's just being prepared. And once you have everything prepared and good to go, and you kind of develop your investigation style in a way that you really like and you feel comfortable with, then the great thing is after that you just go and investigate and have fun, and you're ready for worst case scenarios, but that you're prepared, so you're good to go, and then just enjoy the investigation and enjoy where you're at and enjoy being with the people you are, and hopefully you get something really cool, because it's those few little moments every few investigations that happen that just get you hooked, and the adrenaline rush comes in, and you go out there and you want to investigate all over again.
Oh yeah.
So it's there's definitely room for fun. I wanted to make sure I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to make sure that we acknowledge that it's supposed to be fun as well.
What we're doing is serious, but there's nothing saying we can't have fun with it. We have found not only do spirits in the various locations that we have investigated, not only do they have memory, but believe it or not, they still have a sense of humor.
Yes, they do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I can tell you of all these things that have happened when, me or somebody else was goofing around. And I can also tell you of many other investigators who said the exact same thing to me, just all individually, separately. I get the good stuff when we're just having fun. We get the good stuff when we're making a joke. I've heard it over and over again, and I'm a believer in that. I think you're right. It's when you're having fun that sometimes you get some of the best activity, and it probably does have something to do with, spirits have a sense of humor, or you're actually interesting enough for a spirit to want to interact with you. So it's being like, hey, can you knock one for yes or two? That's boring, but which I do. I love to give me the knocks and stuff. But if you watch my videos, obviously I do that all the time. But it's the funny moments that sometimes get the best activity.
I had an EVP one time. I was in an older house here in town, and they swore up down they were seeing shadow figures, like going by the doorway and stuff. They'd be watching TV, and they'd see a shadow out of the corner of their eye going across the doorway. So they said, well, and my son-in-law, of course, he was wanting to get involved in it and everything anyway. But he's like, will you come over here and investigate? And I said, sure. So I go over there and everything, and shame on me. Yes, I did provoke. But anyway, talking about sense of humor, we were coming out of, they have a little bitty bathroom, or they did then when they lived there. It was like a hallway, and then the kitchen, and then at the end of the hall was a little bathroom. And he was explaining to me about how they had a candle sitting on the kitchen table when they left the house that day. When they got home, it was in the bathroom on the bathtub, and it was lit, and nobody had been in the house. So anyway, we just come out of that bathroom, and I'm standing like right there in the end of this hallway, and I said, all right, where the hell are you hiding at? And when I played that recorder back a little bit later, it said right behind you, and it had an evil little laugh at the end of it, like, ooh. I'm like, yeah, he was having fun with me.
Roger,
Cool.
Yes.
you almost made me spit my drink out at the screen talking about candles. I got two good ones for you, okay? Every Christmas, we go out, Christmas Eve, somewhere in that area, we go out to the Soldier Cemetery. And most of my team are veterans, okay? So what we do is we go out and we light a candle, and we have some sort of wreath, and we do our thanking of service and celebration of the holidays for the soldiers in the cemetery. And this, matter of fact, it was the first year we come out. And we had this, Ed had got this spray of evergreens, and we had candles. It was raining. Those candles did not go out. But in the EVPs, Ed made the comment of one of our members, our other co-founder, was working, and he managed to come out and join the investigation. And Ed had made some sort of little paper about who all was there, and this is Renegade Investigators of the Paranormal and all our names. And Ed told Ron, if I knew you were coming, I would have baked a cake. In other words, I would have put your name in this thing, in the paper. The EVPs come back. Chocolate cake? The next one, just seconds after that, slice me off a hunk of that cake. And it's like, how do we tell it's not cake? It's just this evergreen spray. But another one, and like Ed loves his rods. And one time we had gotten this. I had made acknowledgments of this Medal of Honor winner. He was a Marine. I made acknowledgement, and we got this raw. We had just after that, I tripped over a molehill. A molehill. Moles are crazy out here, and I go, damn! What did I do? We get on the EVP. Clumsy. And at the same time, Ed's rods are just at the tips, bouncing back and forth. We've learned when they do that, they're laughing at you.
You could hear him laughing. He called you clumsy, and then he started laughing.
No,
That
that's
was Ed.
right.
That was Ed.
That's a spirit with a sense of humor for you, huh?
Amen.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to get ready to wind this thing down. Alejandro, I really want to thank you for coming on, man. You've been a great guest, and we went over a lot of interesting stuff here.
You keep up with that Dead Explorer. I'll be watching you, dude.
Right. I want to thank all the listeners that tuned in.
I just want to say thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Well, you come back anytime. We really enjoyed it. I really got a lot of information out of this, and I'm sure a lot of people listening in did too. We will be back here next week, folks. And I will give you a little heads up. We have, I've got it down here somewhere. Where did I write it down at? Yes, sir. Niagara Paranormal, right. Now, am I saying this right? Matt Carr? Okay. Team out of Niagara. And we're looking forward to that. So everybody tune in again next Monday. We're going to have a great show for you. Until then, have a peaceful night. We'll see you later.
And remember, if you can't be normal, be paranormal.
Yes.
Hi, this is Hank Stratton from Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio Show. Join me and my partner, Roger Belt, on Monday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific, and at 3 in Hawaii on www.cjmars.radio.com/CJMars_chat.html. Join us for guest interviews in the paranormal and strange. Join us if you can't be normal, be paranormal.